Hi everyone, I'm Marpi. I flew in from San Francisco, so I'm still a bit jet lagged, but I think this should be fine. I want to show you. I want to kind of go through, kind of like the journey I went through for the last couple of years. Because just a quick background, I started as a web developer years ago, but since then, I kind of realized like the actual core, the actual ideas and the things I wanted to do. At the time, web was the best medium for it, and again, web technologies was the best kind of a tool for it. But also, I never really wanted to make websites. I wanted to kind of create things, create like experiences, things, worlds, environments, creatures, things that move and animate and do things that can reach the biggest amount of people. So that's kind of also what I found great, kind of the flexibility of web and the reach that it really, me starting from like pretty much Eastern Europe, I was able to reach anyone, anywhere, at any time for free. And I think it was also like kind of the beginning of what happened now with social media, Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff, where kind of the first time in the history of media and art, any artist can reach anyone following them instantly for free anywhere, which is kind of, I think, a huge deal. Anyway, so I started with the interesting part of the story starts with codology. So this was the project I did, I want to say 2.5 years ago. So at the time, I was still, like, I worked in different production companies, and then I worked in advertising. And this was the kind of the first project where people just let me do whatever I want, which kind of I always, that's what we all want to do. But then, like, with an open brief like this, it's kind of exciting and scary in the same place. But so the point of the project was our client was Braintree, which kind of wanted to speak more to developers and kind of reach out and kind of both present themselves and kind of open up and kind of show that they're part of the community and stuff. So I guess I was chosen to kind of do something that the community would like. And even through the whole brief, people above me, they didn't really know what I'm doing, but it was cool enough they just let me run with it. So the point of the project is through an API, I can scrape all of the GitHub repos. So you can type in your own name, and what I do, I visualize any project that anyone did as this kind of a living creature. So what happens, you look up your own project, and I analyze every single language you use, and each language, like each shape, each color, it represents different language, and then each of those shapes grows depending how much you used each of them. So it's a full data viz, but also it literally visualizes code and stuff as a living thing. So I was able to play with it to a point I actually found it interesting, and then like it actually spread pretty well on the web because again, somehow I found a couple different things that I really enjoy in creating. I think it's really important, which is letting people create something. So I think like everyone is creative and everyone wants to make something. It's just making stuff is really hard. But if you give like really simple tools, we actually ended up in a point where people would create custom code to create a custom creature for this and then upload it to GitHub. And then at some point, because the project is open source, someone put this project through itself. So this project visualized itself as well. Anyway, plus also the kind of the living animating thing that kind of, I like throwing like kind of life into the whole thing. So after this finished, I realized like, what if I, just without any clients, without anyone, I just run with it. So what if I just do like a high resolution HD version of the same thing, just let people create this bizarre generative things. So with this one, like it's running, same engine is running JavaScript, is running 3JS, all this stuff, but now with nice shaders, light, shadows, all of the stuff. But then that was around the same time when WebVR came out. So through this, I connected the HTC Vive controllers. So if anyone has a new release of Chrome, has the Vive, they can actually, in 3D space, create more of it. Plus, it was around the same time that people started opening up to the idea of digital events. So it's not just music, it's not just bands, whatever. Like there are some projections with stuff you can touch and play with and do stuff. So I decided, like, oh, I'll just run with it, and I run it as an art piece, because why not? And this is how it looked. Yeah, you get an idea. So I feel like what was really interesting with this, again, combining all the things I liked about the medium and getting rid of all the things I didn't like about the medium and the tech. So for example, like I really like VR. I don't like headsets, because especially I really like social spaces. I like people, I like kind of cooperation, all this stuff. I don't like isolation. I don't like just being stuck alone, kind of a thing, especially in a digital environment. So with this, like you can see on the sides, I'm running the HTC5 trackers. I'm running the lighthouses. I've got 2 controllers, but I give each controller to a different person. So they have to cooperate to make something together. But pretty much everyone at the space, they're able to create. So whatever they do, they actually, every time they press, they create a random shape and they can paint with it in this 3D space. So it's kind of like a digital graffiti that anyone can actually do. It works on pretty much anyone, from kids to like older people to drunk people to high, whatever it is. Like it's simple enough that like it's nice and creative and expressive. And I would have people run to me. They didn't even know that like I created this, but they come to me, it's like, oh, look what I made. And they would show me like this blob, this kind of virtual thing, and I'm like, that's cool, like good job. Like it was pretty good. And that's kind of also the point, I think, like kind of the context of, I guess, media changed as well. Like everyone is creative right now. Everyone creates content, like whether it's like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever you make, like it's people create pieces of it to share with other people. So obviously photos and videos and stuff, it's the easiest, but what if we create more open, abstract tools to let people create all those crazy things that can't really explain? Plus what you can do, like what I would do every 30 seconds or so, the whole 3D model is being saved. So what I do after every show, I release a collection of 3D models of what people created. So like these things don't disappear, they actually stay. You can download, remix, do whatever you want. Plus you can 3D print it. So through Shapeways, I upload the objects into the Shapeways, and people can buy whatever they created. So it's actually physical. It actually exists. So around the same time, what I found interesting also, it's everyone thinks and talks mostly about technology and hardware and everything, but there's never enough content, especially with the new devices, with the new like VR, AR, whatever it is. There's stuff coming out every couple months, but there's almost not enough people creating this stuff. And it's really, I could really recommend being one of the creators, because companies that try to promote all this stuff, like they can't promote it without content. It doesn't make sense. It's empty. So they actually encourage or even pay people to create stuff with it. So that was my first exposure to this kind of a setup, where at some point, someone from Google reached out. I was like, oh, I saw this product, it's really cool. Can we show it at some point at the Google I/O in one of the booths? I'm like, sure, cool, yeah, it's online, just go to the website. And then I was live streaming Google I/O from my office.
It allowed developers to build immersive 3D applications with JavaScript and WebGL and run them in the browser. This way, you're leveraging the strength of the web itself.
So at the main reveal of WebVR, they use my project as like the thing that people can do. So suddenly it went from something I did in my spare time that also like people would ask me like, why do I do stuff for free? Why don't I try to do it for a client? The main thing with it, if you do it for yourself, you own it. So I ran with the same projects through shows, through websites, prints, 3D prints, all this stuff on the stage of Google I/O, all of this stuff, because I own it. And it doesn't have to end. So look, when you work freelance, when you work for other clients, when you do something, this is the end. Like you sell it to them, you get paid once, and it's theirs. When you make stuff for yourself, you can call it art, you don't have to call it art, as long as it's your project. You own it forever. Like I exhibited the same project probably like 40 times now. So it's a pretty good investment to like just do your own thing. Because also this is a great example. Like this, again, Google showcases a showcase of the whole technology. At the same time, I would not be able to pitch it to any client. Like no client, including Google, would want this, because why would they want it? Unless I make it, and they see it, and then they want it. It's backwards, but backwards is fine. So through this, I realized also like why I really liked websites. So like there was a whole thing between like all the different website awards pages and everything. What I really actually liked is jumping between all these small ideas, all the small universes, pretty much. The same way like people like a lot of, instead of having one game, you can have hundreds of free games, and you can just jump between them. I liked jumping through websites, like, oh, this is something interesting. You kind of jump through worlds really quickly, so we go to like travel through all this idea. So I started making a lot of kind of abstract, interactive experiments. So this couple examples, collaboration with Archon Nair, who's a digital artist somewhere. He is in New Delhi, India. I never met him. We made probably like 7 projects together. And yeah, there's no borders, there's no rules, there's no walls. So there's a lot of excited people that want to do stuff. And joining together, you can end up with some bizarre, unexpected places that are actually really interesting. Because the whole, instead of kind of thinking of the goal, you just sit and doodle there. You sit kind of stream of consciousness, like you find places that, I guess they were there the whole time. So for this also, what I would do, like with all those interactive things, I would make, like, so you've got a keyboard and mouse, but like it's really not a human interface. It's called a human interface, but like it's barely natural in any way. So like I was trying to figure out what are the good ways to make you like almost touch it. So this was a fun experiment where it runs Kinect. It detects the closest blob, which in this case is your hand, so like you can play with it like a fish, like a pet. But also it sees you. Because it's got a camera, you see yourself in a reflection of it. So at this point, it was way before any AI or any those type of ideas, but I really like kind of the idea of like digital pets, digital living things. Because at the same time, like I would see a lot of digital art that were just videos, which again, because I was working with interaction, for me, whenever I was working on a website and it included videos, it was just a container. I didn't have to even think what's in there, because this part just plays video. For me, the interaction, the kind of responsiveness, all the other stuff would matter more, because it would actually like care about me. It would be actually made for me. Or the video, like whatever happens, like it just is. Through this also, like a lot of, so this more on the digital art side, like a lot of people look into how to apply rules to like new type of art, because a lot of rules don't really make sense. So right now there's a big talk about blockchain and limiting and limited edition and all this stuff. I kind of like, so I feel like in a way it's kind of again, literally limiting to the thing. Like, why not go the other way and try to use the strengths of the medium? And again, the strengths of it is it's accessible anywhere at any time for anyone from any type of devices. So when I do the same projects, for example, they behave differently on different devices because I play to the strengths, not to the weaknesses of it. So for example, on desktop, yes, you've got a mouse, you've got a keyboard, so you can drag, touch, click, whatever. Phones have really good gyroscopes. That way, like, I can run the same environment, but I unplug the typical interaction and I plug it in whenever it's available. I plug in a gyroscope, which is actually even available on some of the laptops, so you can do the same thing on the laptop, and then you've got, like, you transfer real physics from real world into the digital one. With WebVR, again, the same project, the same basically website, suddenly you've got more controls. So like with a different device, you've got pretty much different superpowers. So again, on desktop, you're more passive. Like in VR, like you actually can walk around it, but also you've got more control, so you can edit stuff around you. So then what I also try to do, socket servers. So in this case, the person in VR sees the person in the phone, sees the person desktop. So the person on desktop would see the person in VR painting. So this thing changes. It's kind of crazy. My friend was telling me a really fun story regarding this because there was a VR chat room like a thing, which was the same, different people with different devices. But one person had a leap motion, and he was the only person with fingers. So people were pretty much praying to him because he had the superpowers of having fingers while everyone had just no fingers. Through this also, like, because there's no limits to it, I can attach it to any screen. So I can run with projections, with LED screens, with anywhere at any point. Like I run multiple shows of the same piece in multiple countries at the same time where people can see each other. Like, the connectivity is, for me, the key. It's not the limitation. It's being able to spread it infinitely. It's a huge thing. So then I was looking more into bigger screens, kind of more physical spaces. So this is a symbol. This was kind of like a canvas idea to what I think makes sense from multiple types of interaction, including audio reactivity, including noise animations, people touching, clicking, huge touch screens, but also people connected remotely through the phone. And this is how it looks. So this is in the office I work from right now. We've got 9 huge screens. So when you turn off the lights, it looks like this awesome gallery space. Those 9 screens are connected to 9 separate computers, which are connected over LAN, but also connected to internet. So I'm able to sync all of them to spread the same pattern across all of them. One of them runs audio reactivity, so all of it moves to the audio. But also, the name of the piece is Binary Garden. But if you go to binary.garden, you go to exactly the same website. So this is on my phone, just a website. that as you touch it, it connects to the same screen. And you don't have to be in the same place even. So what I would do at some shows, I would run the same piece in multiple places, give people slightly different interactions so people would see themselves across the countries or cities or wherever they would be. Also, what I would do, I would have a live stream of the video so people from home could literally touch the architecture of my office remotely as I'm there. So I would sit in the office, I would see people trying to mess with me remotely. And again, I don't know who it is, which is even better. Because it is someone, it is this tiny, just a touch of them, but again, no clue who it is. So for this, I would run different, so this is a collaboration with John Berber. I would run different shows in different countries where the main interaction was, again, you don't have to touch anything. So the projection can be anywhere. You can be actually far away from the thing, but we all have really good digital remotes in our pockets. And I can basically guess that most of the people have one. Without even downloading any app or anything, I can let anyone touch anything from the same place or remotely. I work a lot with projection mapping, so having interactive version of projection mapping. This was a prototype for a big chapel in France. I can give different people different lights. What I can do also, I can split screens. So if it's just one person interacting, they can go get the whole building. If it's two people, I can split them half-half. And the more people start to do stuff, I split the interactions in smaller. But basically, anyone can touch things remotely far. And again, I think it's kind of this idea of, again, giving people something they don't have in reality. So again, kind of superpowers. So there's also running the same setup from one of this first project I was showing. I kind of wanted to test. Anyway, I decided every stupid idea I have now, as long as it's doable in less than 2 days, I'm just gonna run with it. So with this one, I was trying to have this kind of imaginary sword fight. You know, in games, sometimes they have swords that are 3 times the size of the person. So I kind of wanted to simulate something like this, again, giving people the extra powers. And I've got a recording of a first test when 2 of my friends did it. And you should listen to the sounds as well, because they don't see it. It's made for the audience. From the perspective of the audience, they don't see what's happening, because it's happening on the wall next to them. So they have to explain to each other what they're doing and what the other person is supposed to do.
Wheel. 3 swings. Here we go. 1. I'm back up. 2. Back 3. Lock sword. Push. Here we go.
Stab me. Yeah, so this was in San Francisco. We do a lot of hackathons. So this was one day hackathon. Because I got the space, I got the dancers and stuff. It was called Dance Hack Day, but I don't know anything about dancing, so I made a sword fight. And yeah, I just ran with it because it became this kind of audio-visual piece by the end of the night, which was again more animated, but it all worked. So around the same time, so this was in December. I think this was end of December, beginning of January. I think I was actually on a flight, and I really like flying because you disconnected from anything, and you're around other people disconnected from anything. So it's really, again, up in the air thing. I was thinking, what if I try to create something that's moving, create something that before most of my things were relatively static. I decided I'm going to try to use kind of game-like bones and animations and things, and then randomize it. So if I do stuff with code, if I build one spider, I can do infinite version of them because I can just randomize the shape, the number of legs, number of everything, and then I got this. So again, this is the same blue spider, just everything randomized and thrown into one thing. And just looking at this, I'm like, okay, that looks alive. That looks like stuff is happening. Obviously, they don't have collisions, they don't have anything else, but it's a really good start to something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll just keep playing and just shift into direction I think makes sense. So I made this. So it's using the same interaction, but with gyroscope. So basically, anytime I'm making something new, I'm gluing all the things I did before into one new thing. So it's the same thing, like you've got phone interaction, you just go to the website, you're part of the big installation, you've got a lot of people versus one big wall. Each person creates any number of creatures. Each person gets a spotlight. So when you load it, I know I put the URL up front, so I know when you look at the beginning. I know gyroscope, so I know where's your left, right, up, and down. So from that point, you actually project the light. Each person gets a different color. You project it into the space. And then from your phone, you can create those creatures and throw it on the screen. And then they bounce to the music. And it's a whole party, spider party. So then I was running more with this. Like, what if they actually create music as well? So I used a JavaScript library called Tone.js, which is incredible, which is a whole synthesizer in JavaScript. And then I ran it with those creatures. So they make sounds with you making sound, and there's a huge one making sound behind it, and there's a whole thing. And again, because context really matters as well, instead of running it just as a website, which I did initially, I release new websites as a big show, as a big thing. And I released this in an Academy of, what was it? San Francisco, I think Academy of Arts, like one of the big building, a big theater. And the context just changes so much, even though it's just a website. So the music is generated straight from a website. There's no assets to it, it's just code. So it's fully generated and keeps evolving over time as well. And then people can save their creations and vote it up and down. So at the end, I'm trying to create a whole album of the best generative music that people voted, like crowdsource an album. And then I was just running with it further, like just make a whole environment of those things. So now we've got those things flying around, but because the space is abstract and ambivalent enough, like it's kind of like an ocean and kind of like a desert, so they're kind of like birds or kind of like fish, but also it doesn't matter. And each time you press this big orb on the top, it regenerates the whole thing, so it's never the same. Plus it works on your phone, so again you can take it with you, and it just is. In the meantime also, like I was doing more and more Connect. So with Connect, I can join all of those things I had before, but then also I can scan people's bodies and put it back in the environment. So I don't need to give people devices or use their devices. I can do it device-less, which is even better. So this literally just body to the screen thing. So here you can see like all the cubes is where the tracking happens. So like I get full body skeleton of anyone standing in front of it. Using Connect Vision 2, I can get up to 6, and I can chain them, so I can have any number of connects syncing together through the server. So yeah, it's super fun. And you can run it, again, on any scale of any of this. Because again, it's, at the end of the day, it's the context and the scale of what you're presenting. It's not even about the technology, because at the end of the day, technologies change and shift, but it's kind of the scale and the idea and making things more physical. So the less amount of screens or headsets you've got in between or controllers, the closer you're going to be to this. So when I had already this, I decided, like, what if, again, it's with VR or with games, usually like everything is like about shooting, or like if it's your body in VR, like it's usually just a human body, which is kind of boring. Because again, like if you create a whole brand new universe, why would you can be anyone or anything. Why would you be yourself? Because like, there's more options. So I was looking like, what if, you've got more abstract ideas, or like what if you just look completely different? Like I had a version when, because I scanned the limbs, I had a version when I can odd limbs. So you've got a tail, or you've got multiple legs, or multiple arms. I had a version of a project where people can interact with stuff above them, but instead of touching or playing with it, they would try to hit it. So I had a version of Kinect scanning skeleton thing when I took away people's arms. So I built a whole universe in which no one can hit anyone else, which is kind of good, slightly limiting, but then depending on what body you have, even though it's virtual, your brain adapts very quickly and you start moving, following the body. So people with different types of bodies would behave differently, and as soon as they took away their arms, people stopped using their arms and started just wiggling. Which is, again, pretty nice and adaptive, but here's like a sample of how it looks. So yeah, it's a bit of a chaos, but it's a fun one. So through running more and more of this, like I realized, like I always wanted to kind of get as many people, or like reach as many people as possible, and like just find all the people that would enjoy my work and everything. Because finally I guess my stuff was good enough that like I would be invited to travel and stuff. I realized I really like crowds. Like I really like I grew up on festivals, and like the festivals were kind of the place for me where like I would fully escape reality, and for the price of a ticket I would be in a different universe for a couple days where like none of the normal rules apply. Everything is magical and different and colorful. And years later, like after going through this whole path, I realized that's kind of what I want to make for other people. So this kind of different universes, different experiences, when people just come in for a couple hours, they're completely somewhere else. I can make it interactive and involved, that they're actually part of the experience. So I started doing more and more, and this is a video from Brazil when I ran a show one night for 1,500 people with like 6 of my projects all around and a lot of stuff. But, So at this point, I really realized I don't have enough pieces because I pretty much brought everything I have. But also it was magical because at any point there was no instructions to any of this. There was no words, there was no language, because you don't need one. Like it's all pretty much body language at this point. It's all kind of natural things. You try things, and then you see it does something. So then you discover what else you can do. So for this, I was looking through different types of interaction. So this was one of the experiments, how to run VR without headsets. So I could let people into the environment and then make all the digital displays adapt to what they see. So in this way, I can make stuff that looks like a window into a different thing. Then I found a way how to do it for multiple people. So I'd like bend it. So there would be two realities blending together. Then I had like a big sun in my office, which was crazy. Then I was doing festivals. So this was Oregon Eclipse. There was the festival for during the solar eclipse. And I was with Obscura, so we projected on a whole hill the sun. So you can see people, this is the size of a person. It was a pretty big canvas, and it's all like crazy real-time stuff just melting. So at this point, like I kind of knew, like I love big crowds. I love all this people and like energy and kind of, lifting them from this reality, putting them in a different one, and just running with it. Plus, connecting to whatever devices they have, so they can bring piece of it home. So I started doing projections across full rooms, and because I guess San Francisco, I figured like I'll try one of the kind of hippie melting things, and it looked pretty cool. So then I realized that I really like pretty much submerging people in the middle of all of it, and yes, this is where I am right now, and I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I feel like slowly I can kind of see a direction. I can show you. So I'm opening a big show in Washington D.C. in 2 weeks from now, which is really scary because it's the biggest and craziest things I've ever done. I can show you kind of a quick sample of what I'm working right now, and hope it makes sense. So I'm trying to make kind of a meta project of all these projects I just showed you. I'm trying to glue it with really high resolution everything into one big environment that spreads. It's not one place only, it spreads to any place that would display it. I'm going to open it in 2 weeks in 3 places at the same time, in Washington, D.C., in Shanghai, and in Prague during Signal Festival, and just fully submerge the whole thing with these crazy things. You can see the skeleton tracking the can kind of see that's like everything's gone, there's nothing left, you're just inside of this digital crazy thing. But also I take you from the three-dimensional world, put you inside of a three-dimensional digital world, inside of this thing, so it's literally all around you, and then project it back on all the surfaces around you. Plus, it's audio reactive too, so it's digitally actually fully around you. Plus all of the stuff running with leap motion, so all the separate, it's kind of like a terrarium kind of music, like kind of a zoo of the digital living things when you can actually reach out and touch all of them. Because then I realized like all of those things to make it more physical. I love just the sense of touch, and just none of this is easy also. All of it is like challenging and weird and scary and gross and beautiful and weird. But I think like Jane, like, you know, anything futuristic or good enough, like it's gonna be scary. Like if it's easy, then like it doesn't do anything. Like it's gotta be kind of challenging and kind of, it's the same as, you know, any type of a prediction of the future. If it's a good one, people are gonna reject it almost because it's scary or weird or this. It's, you know, you can't fully imagine this being a thing, but that it is. Okay, thank you.